Okay, unresolved conflict is deeply expensive, and I want to unpack and show you some brain science around conflict and some things you can say instead that fosters closeness instead of more conflict and winning the argument, because winning the argument, you never win. The relationship doesn't win. So here's the thing at work. 1 in 4 of us say workplace conflict has reduced our productivity. And 1 in 10 of us take sick days or actually leave the company because conflict doesn't get resolved. This is a workplace. These are workplace statistics, and conflict doesn't stay at work. It follows us home. Many of you have had this happen, right? Let's say you had a really crappy conversation with a coworker, right? You drive home replaying it, you're ticked off, you walk into the house and your spouse or partner says something simple like, "What do you want for dinner?" And somehow you're deeply irritated, right? It's like carried over, that pain and anguish is carried over. Conflict came home with you. Or maybe it's the other way around. Maybe you have an argument with your teenager before leaving for work. And you arrive at the office, you're distracted, your patience is shorter, you're irritated, you're triggered, you're not in your zone, not even close. And your ability to listen is lower, if not non-existent. Suddenly, a routine email feels like criticism. Conflict rarely stays where it starts, rarely. It spills over into every one of our relationships because our brain doesn't simply turn off emotional experiences. We don't do it that way. Here's what the brain is doing. When conflict goes unresolved, and that's a lot of conflict, your brain continues trying to solve it. It's almost like an operating system in the background, like your computer is still operating, the app is still operating. That means you're replaying the conversation, you think of better responses. I'm very good at that. You imagine what the other person is thinking and feeling. You rehearse the next conversation. It usually does not go well. Brain imaging research shows that unresolved interpersonal stress keeps our attention engaged because the brain needs closure. Our brains need closure. It doesn't like uncertainty. So while you're trying to focus on your work, your brain is saying, we're not done with that conversation yet. And that's what exhausts you. This is basic brain research. It's one reason conflict costs organizations so much money, because it really does. Leaders spend anywhere from 10 to 12 hours a week on managing and resolving conflict. People aren't just spending time arguing. We're not arguing. We're not spending the time arguing. We're spending the time with the mental anguish of carrying it over. Same thing happens in families. You replay the holiday dinner, what happened at 4th of July, the disagreement with your adult child. I've done that a million times with my adult kids and my grandkids. The comment your partner made yesterday that's still lingering, that actually builds upon old resentments. The conflict may have lasted 10 minutes, and your brain is still working on it for 72 hours. Here's where we often make things worse. We start writing stories like, in our brain, they don't respect me. They always do this. I say that a lot about my husband. This is a human thing, not a you thing. We all do this. They knew exactly what they were doing. Maybe not. The problem is that once we become certain about another person's intentions, our curiosity disappears. And curiosity is where emotional intelligence lies. And when we're no longer curious, we stop gathering information, we start gathering evidence. So my husband didn't do something yesterday, like seriously. And I went into my tirade of all the resentments of things he didn't do when he said he was going to do it. I'm learning to give him more of the benefit of the doubt. My husband is deeply ADHD. It's a thing. It's part of my marriage. And it gives me more curiosity when I give him the benefit of the doubt that it's not a character flaw, that he didn't do what he said he's going to do, okay? Everything they do when we're gathering evidence supports the story we've already written in our heads. At work, we'll call them difficult. At home, we call them selfish, right? Either way, the relationship does change. It does. It's inevitable. So here's the shift. Here's the communication shift. Most people start difficult conversations like this. This is what we do. We need to talk. That is one of the worst freaking things you can ever say. We need to talk is creates fear, anxiety, stress. That's a wrong phrase. Think about how your body responds when someone says that to you. We need to talk. Your shoulders tighten, your stomach drops. Okay, say this instead. This is a good Post-it note thing. Remember, putting things on Post-it notes is really important because when you put it on a Post-it note on your computer or wherever in your bathroom, you keep bringing that conversation to the prefrontal cortex of your brain. Sometimes I get comments that say, nobody talks like that. Yeah, people that are not deeply intimate don't talk like this. People that are deeply intimate change their communication patterns to foster connection. And here's a connecting phrase. Oh, honey, I'd like to understand what happens so resentment doesn't start growing between us. I care about you. Is that something you normally would say? Probably not. It's something you practice and get masterful at. I'm practicing and getting masterful at it because I care about my marriage. You got it? The sentence of we need to talk prepares for battle. A sentence like this prepares the brain for collaboration. You're preparing your brain. You're communicating your intention before discussing the problem. That's high pressure communication. So I got 3 things for you to consider, okay? Number 1, don't let the story become bigger than the event. Address the issue while it's still about what happened, not 6 months later when it's become evidence that the person has always been this way. One of my things that I threw as a bomb yesterday when I was upset with my husband, not even with the topic, you haven't fixed the refrigerator. The water thing is not broken. He's fixed it once before and it didn't take, and it's been about a month now. And it's like, I don't want to ask him to keep doing it. Hang on. I need to have a conversation because his ADHD did not put it to the prefrontal cortex of his brain. His executive functioning works very different than mine. It doesn't mean that I'm not respected that he didn't do the water thing in the frickin' fridge. Are you following me? Okay. So you don't do this 6 months later. Here's me a month later trying to get what I need and doing it very shamefully. Got it? Okay. The longer the conflict sits, the more assumptions your brain creates. Our brains create assumptions. It's just how our brains work. Number 2, you want to practice replacing certainty with curiosity. Instead of saying, you were trying to embarrass me, try, help me understand what's happening for you. That would be perfect for my water thing with my fridge. You were not caring for me. You don't hear anything I say. Those are some of the phrases I'll say sometimes. I'm embarrassed to say it, but it's part of being human. I'm practicing getting better at this. Help me understand what you need, how I can support you, because this fridge thing, I really want to see it get resolved. And how can I help you? Help me. Maybe we need to hire somebody. Okay? Doesn't mean you're agreeing with them. It doesn't mean you're becoming a doormat. None of that means that. That's all emotional intelligence of fostering intimacy. Okay, number 3, and this is probably the most important one, is separating behavior from identity. There's a huge difference between saying, that comment hurt me. When you said that, that hurt my heart. And you're an inconsiderate person. Let me do that another way because I kind of screwed that up. The wrong way to say it is, you're so inconsiderate. You are so rude. Versus, wow, that kind of hurt. Can we start again? Can we find another way to talk about this? Very different energy. One attacks identity. One addresses behavior. When identity is attacked, you're screwed, man. When you attack the identity, you are frickin' screwed. Nothing good is going to come of this. Nothing good is going to happen. And sometimes people say, well, this is the way it is. Well, do you really want to be in relationship with this person? Do you really want to be close to this person? What do you want from this relationship with this person? Those are great inquiries. I want you to remember this as I close out. Conflict isn't what destroys relationships. Conflict is inevitable. Unmanaged conflict harms relationships. Healthy families disagree. Healthy teams disagree. Healthy partners disagree. Healthy organizations disagree. The difference is that we know that to move through disagreement is important not to turn it into contempt, because contempt is that's the death sentence. Contempt is the death sentence. We can prove we're right. You'll never have an extraordinary relationship. Being right or being close. Those are two very different things. That's Dr. Wayne Dyer. You can be right or you can be happy. And it's not about ignoring stuff. It's not about that, okay? So the next time you're tempted to begin with, let me close on this. We need to talk. Say this instead. I'd like to understand what happened so resentment doesn't grow between us. My husband responds to that very lovingly and very deliciously, okay? That one sentence doesn't solve the conflict. It creates the kind of conversation in the relationship where resolution actually becomes more likely. And isn't that the game, bottom line? To get closer, to feel connected, to feel seen, valued, and heard. Okay, cheering you on.